The premise of the film Memento is very simple. A man cannot make new memories as he struggles with his journey to find his wife's killer, who also happens to be the man that caused his ailment to begin with. However, the director and screenwriter Christopher Nolan single-handedly takes this film to another level with his revolutionary rewriting of the story arc, beautiful cinematography, and great scene-by-scene work. So basically, Memento has two stories embedded in it. These two stories are separated by the black and white and the color scenes, which is a really great use of kind of a simple filler that you can throw on in post-production that has the film, it creates a really unique look to it. And the black and white scenes show the past of Leonard, which includes him speaking on the phone to Teddy about Sammy Jenkins, who not only turns out to be Leonard in the past, but also was a very, very clever addition in order to defeat a big challenge the film had, which I'll talk about later. Meanwhile, these colored scenes show the story of Leonard now, and they go in reverse order. This is where the skill of Christopher Nolan becomes realized. Nolan, as a screenwriter, had one issue when writing the screenplay for this film. The first question that an audience should have when any given scene in a movie closes is what happens next, followed by how is this character going to grow. Nolan wouldn't be able to do this in his colored scenes because the order was in reverse. So that dictates that the audience would have already known the answer to those two questions. So Nolan instead structures these scenes so that the questions that the audience is asking is why is this happening and what is happening. This not only made for very messy note-taking on my part, but it's also a method that achieves its goal, which is to keep the audience invested in the story. But that's not the only issue that Nolan had to overcome in his writing. If you think about your classic story arc, you have an introduction, you have some rising action, and you have a climax, which leads to some sort of conclusive and fulfilling ending. Nolan had the struggle in which the ending in the real time, so the very end of the film before the credits roll, was in the middle of the film. So since he had reordered the scenes, this was very difficult for the viewer to know what the beginning was from the black and white scenes and the ending and the color scenes, but still come up with a conclusive ending. Instead, Nolan uses Sammy Jenkins to hide from us what the real beginning of the story is. Sammy was like a character that didn't really exist, except in the conditioned reality of Leonard's mind, and yet his existence in the film is the only way it could have had a real conclusive ending. Had we known that Leonard really killed his own wife, the revelation that Teddy was just helping him kill random John G's would not have been as powerful because we would already have known that his search didn't really have a purpose. However, my one complaint with this film is that I don't think Nolan really did overcome this challenge, even though the film is set up in a way that he could. The ending scene, while still pretty interesting, is kind of anticlimactic and left him with the feeling that the message of this film may be lost in translation. The ending contradicts all that we have learned throughout the film, which is that memory isn't a burden. However, in this final scene, that message is conflicted as Leonard uses his lack of judgment to his own advantage for the first time that we ever see in this film. Overall, though, it's a solid 4 out of 5 film, and it required a lot of mental gymnastics to write, and it's so easy to understand. Nolan truly showed us how he could bring us along with Leonard and make us forget what Leonard had forgotten as well. And Leonard shows us that the only burden that memory has is that it reminds us of who we once were.